This is your first time to Indonesia? Or?
Yes, and my first time to Papua too. I don't like adventures. I'm not a big fan of adventures.
This program started in April 1999. It was formally a program from the Institute of the Free Flow of Information, ISAI, it's an NGO here, with the support of MDLF, the Asia Foundation and the Dutch Embassy. That program has aims to support the radio program in Indonesia, which has very big repression under the Suharto regime. So the journalistic radio is not growing at that time. Even it was prohibited to be done by the journalists in the radio. So there's a need for radio station, private station, to have a good quality of journalistic program. Then ISAI decided to jump to that field.
Okay. ISAI was developed to struggle for the freedom of the press and freedom of expressions. That is the two main spearhead of ISAI struggle. First, ISAI has a special program, a radio program called the Radio 68H. And then after we saw that there is an opportunity for the radio to develop itself, we just abandoned the control of the ISAI, the radio from ISAI, and make a kind of company for the Radio 68H. And the owner of Radio 68H is 60% by this cooperative, the workers here, and 40% is owned by ISAI.
My friend Tony. He make some apa ya? Buat apa ya? Some report. Some news report.
All of us here are based on printed journalism. Actually, I work for magazine, newspaper, but never for radio. So there's new thing also for us in '99, and then by support of MDLF and Asia Foundation, we realized that start on April '99. We distribute the news by email at the beginning. So we send audio file through email, because there is a necessity from the radio station. If only text, they can get from everywhere, from National News Agency, from .com, it's already growing at the time, yeah. But there is no supply on audio file. That is very important for radio. I think you understand that, because the broadcaster need the clips. Yeah. Then we are the only supplier of the the clip in that time. So the response is getting good, bigger and bigger. I think in August 99 we already have a network with 60 radios, and we also program long duration, 30 minutes. That's become problem because when you send a file with 30 minutes duration, our colleagues in Papua, in Maluku, which only depend on Wasantara net, they need 6 hours to download. It's very funny thing because we assume to have a broadcast on afternoon at 4 o'clock, but they only possible to broadcast tomorrow morning. So that's why then we, in the end of 99 we think about other solution. Then we come to satellite network, which we start on early of 20 years of 2000. I mean, the years of 2000s we start with the satellite network, and the network become more and more fast growing. Now it's 200 stations all over Indonesia, throughout Indonesia. Then we targeted on June we will cover 300 stations on the network.
This is our network around Indonesia, from Sumatra, Kalimantan, Java, Sulawesi, until we call it now Papua.
Indonesia has more than 17,000 islands, and so it's very difficult to be connected by the terrestrial things. That's why this one thing of the good decision from the Suharto era. They decide in 75, I think, to have satellite to cover the communication in Indonesia. So with this satellite we can reach every part of the region, even outside of Indonesia.
Selamat petang saudara, kembali kantor berita Radio 68H Jakarta menjumpai Anda melalui sambungan.
This is Kabar Baru. We produce it in every hour, about 5 minutes. It is updating from the field, from Jakarta and other city about what happened in Indonesia. We make it every hour, about 5 minutes. This is the main studio. We also have a production studio. We can interview from there or reading the news.
Mengenai yang Anda sebutkan tadi, Ngadina sempat mengajak untuk mogok, itu juga masuk dalam kenapa?
Boleh deh ditanya soal pengamat ekonomi.
Bukankah mengenai mogok itu dijamin oleh undang-undang?
I'm a sub-editor here. I edit the report from our reporter in Jakarta, from the phone by phone. I make news from the reporter. I take it from them. In the morning we have the bulletin, 13-minute program at 6 a.m. And then every hour we have some kind of flash news. It's 5 minutes. So we have to produce the news for the Kabar Baru and bulletin. And in the evening we have a bulletin too, about 30 minutes. I'm as an sub-editor, I do my job to edit the news from the reporter and then read it in the studio.
I'm a sub-editor or coordinator of reporters. I'm coordinate the reporters here, and I'm also have to coordinate with the networks in another city in Indonesia to coverage what happened in Indonesia today. And one sub-editor will take care of it. We take care of cities, many cities in Indonesia, and myself only take care or coordinate the reporters in Jakarta.
Now there are more than 1,000 radio stations in Indonesia. Most of them are just play music, because you know that after 3 decades of repression there is no skill on journalism, and also no attention and no willingness of the owner to spend money to develop the editorial team, because editorial is always cost for the company. Yeah. There is no income on that. So when we start, there is not really reporters on that radio. So we just start from here to send. We just provide them with materials, but also in mind we always keep that we have to develop this network not only from Jakarta but also from the region to Jakarta. Then with the support of Asia Foundation, we program training for journalists all over Indonesia. So already 3 years we organize basic training for journalists, and the outcome is we have now 50 correspondents which they still work in their own radio and give us reports to the network. This for me is very successful thing with this network, is to encourage local journalists.
Sudah budaya di lingkungan Polri kita.
The technical mechanism production is there are 2 sources from our reporters. We have 30 reporters in Jakarta. They send material to the office and then we convert into digital. And every computer in this room are connected with the local internet network, then sent to the producer computer, then read in the studio. And in the same way also, if we take the report from correspondent, the correspondent we call by phone or they send by email. If we call by telephone, then we convert that voice into digital digital file, and then put here in the producer computer, and then on the time schedule we broadcast, the broadcaster will sit here and broadcast it.
Is this like candid camera or something?
Candid camera? No. So we have the server room here, and possibly just explain what we find technically.
What we have here is mainly email server and file servers for the news team to work the daily news. This one is one of the file server. This is the incoming mail server. This is the outgoing mail server. And this one here is a Linux box. We're trying to develop our server system into Linux because the open source nature of it. So we're trying to avoid using pirated softwares and and we think that with Linux there are more support for developing it on the internet.
The internet, I think, is very important, and it will give access to the radio teams to information, to open up their possibility to get information from outside, and also to send out what is their production in the radio. Mostly in remote area outside Java, there is only one provider. The name is Wasantara Net, wasantara.or.id, I think. Not. It is owned by the post office company, state-owned company, and the bandwidth is very small. And worse than that, it is tightly controlled by state. So if something happen politically sensitive in Aceh or in Papua, they just close that provider. So it's very bad service for people. Our studio here, then we plan to go to Papua, right here, to make assessment on the wireless internet, satellite internet.
Go to Papua too, yeah?
Yeah, we fly tonight. I'm a bit scared.
Our friend too, if they have to go to Papua. Wood everywhere, you know. And the people kind of different.
Papuan are not happy with Indonesia. We have to admit it, that because during the New Order for more than 30 years, they are very repressive and only exploited the riches of Papuan and bring to Jakarta. So there is a time after the reform era that people now can raise their aspiration, their idea and their goals to bring it on the table and negotiate with the central government to make a new formula of the relation between Papua and Jakarta. NGO has very big role to amplify what these people want, and also to formulate what is the policy that should be done in Papua. This is a very important role. That is the main thing that we went to Papua to organize with the local NGO, but we also go to the beaches. It's very beautiful beach and smuggling the orchids.
Well, first of all, like Papua is, huge, in terms of area. The area size is almost same as Japan. Papua, it's one province in Indonesia, but its area is the same like in Japan. Yeah, of course, Papua is the largest province in Indonesia, and also the very rich in natural resources. From here there minerals like gold, copper, silvers and others. Also natural gas like oil, like timber, and also marine resources also very rich. So from here, many natural resources are taken to outside, and actually Indonesia makes a lot of interest from Papua. But Papuan people complain the benefit of selling natural resources to the local community is very small. That's a source of frustration of people here. Papua is one of the most poor area in Indonesia. If you look at like income, the Papuan people's income is very low, and many villages are below the poverty line. Right? And the majority of the people do not have a television set. So people rely on radio to get information. Also here, newspapers distribution is very limited because of geographical problems, right? Yeah, so the radio is a very important source of information, and the village people, they mainly get information through radio, because radio is still, for them it's not so cheap, but still, they can get the radios, small radio set, to turn in. No, I think an opening radio is a very, very good idea, because I heard only 3 radio stations here, one owned by the government and 2 others are owned by church. So there's not so much independence.
We work with 3 stations now in Papua, 2 in Jayapura and the other in Wamena. In Jayapura we work with 2 stations, one is a church radio named Suara Kasih Agung, and the second is Art FM, it's private radio. 68 has no intention to directly have radio here, because we develop network that is more important for us. So we support the existing radio station here to be independent and to be more skilled journalists and have more access to information. That is our goals, to set up network. So we cooperate with the existing radio. Only in a place where there is no radio, then we start thinking to maybe have our own. The main program we went to Papua is to prepare the internet provider. This will give a big impact to some NGO who in the first step of networking on that, because they will have very big access, capacity is very big, and also direct connection without telephone is very important because you don't have to pay the telephone bill. And I think that it makes the independency of the state-owned provider is very important. Yeah.
Email communication is only tool, so far, to have a smooth communication. But Wasantara has many problems. I think Wasantara is also, infiltrated by the intelligence agency. Yeah, so we do not feel safe to use Wasantara. Yeah, so if we have an independent, provider, that would be really great.
And how do you think that infiltration? Why do you think that?
Because once I was interrogated by police, and then they asked me about my email communication, and then even asked me to open my computer, so that they can check what kind of information I send and what kind of information I receive. But of course, I refused, to open up my computer. But they said, no problem, we have access to Wasantara. We can check your email from there, right? Yeah. So I don't trust Wasantara.
With the satellite internet connection that we planned for this project in Papua, we organized with the local NGO, then they prepared the company who will arrange that facility. Then we make assessment of the places which we can start with the sideline of connection. Of course, there is an obstacle in these things, because for the wireless connection you need the line of sight, and also the distance is limited.
There's a tree in between. Yeah. You can just see the corner of the roof. Here it is. Yeah. This must be it. You're now looking for the first NGO we went to. Yeah. And that's on the right? Somewhere here? The white one. The white one. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
we will start from the small project that we can find a repeater, and then some NGO or radio who can have a line of sight, they can start with. But if it can be developed next time, if we success with the small things, and then we can expand to other places. isolated island. People need means of information which very bad, yeah, the need. And I think the radio, internet can supply them with, can help them to access of information, so they can decide what fate that they want to face. Yeah, so it's make people not depend to government. It's good idea, and yeah, I think we have to support that.
Next, the car coming.
Okay.